unless you've turned off every source of news media today, you can't escape the topic of sexual harassment, especially in the workplace. And so about 2 or 3 months ago, I began mulling this idea in my mind about what we are doing here in the city to ensure that our workspaces here are completely harassment-free. And so, working with a team of people that you see behind us here, we began exploring the idea of what it would be like to have a completely harassment-free workplace. And while we started first thinking about sexual harassment, the further we discussed this, the more we thought about harassment on the lines of whether it could be gender-based, whether it could be race-based, whether it could be age-based, whether it could be orientation-based. And so we began exploring the possibilities, and I think and I hope the legislation will accomplish this, of what it would be like to showcase the City of Pittsburgh as a harassment-free workplace, that you are welcome to come here and join this incredible team of people that work here in the city, and that we can guarantee you that it will be on our radar, and we will do everything in our power to make certain that the workplace is indeed harassment-free. So I would like to recognize the team of people that were very instrumental in bringing this piece of legislation to fruition. I'd absolutely like to thank my council staff. I'd like to thank the Office of the Mayor, Lindsay Powell and Laura Sullivan, our Department of Human Resources and Civil Service, our Acting Director, Janet Manuel and Richard Butler, the Office of Councilman O'Connor, who has signed on as a co-sponsor of the legislation, Lynette Letterman and Matt Singer, as well as our indispensable law department, Wendy Kobe, who worked tirelessly to help us craft this ordinance, and also Sue Fritchie of the Women's Law Project. Councilwoman Gross has also signed on as a co-sponsor of this legislation, and while we wait for the mayor to join us, I would like to introduce our Acting Director of Human Resources and Civil Service, Janet Manuel, and Richard Butler. If you could come up and talk a little bit about the ordinance.
Thank you. Good morning. In 1998, the U.S. Supreme Court decision in Onkel versus Sundower Offshore Services Incorporated, in which the court held that the Title VII is not a general civility code for the American workplace. The City of Pittsburgh recognizes that adherence to laws and federal enforcement is just one component of the solution to ending workplace harassment, and that employers must do more. Elected officials, chiefs, directors, management, and employees of the City of Pittsburgh need the skills to promote a respectful and inclusive workplace. As we improve the quality of our policy with the ordinances introduced, the Department of Human Resources and Civil Service will ensure the implementation of the prohibited use of the non-disclosure agreement, and that mandated anti-harassment training is conducted, and that a respectful work culture becomes ingrained in the City of Pittsburgh. Richard Butler, HR Manager of Employee Wellness and Development, will discuss the mechanism of training and our time frame.
Thank you, Janet. Good morning, all. I want to begin by saying that our training program will be prevention-based. We will go from being reactive to proactive. There will be a three-pronged approach to our training for all employees, elected officials, chiefs, directors, managers, interns. We will begin with an anti-harassment climate survey, and then we will follow that with civility training. Civility training in the workplace focuses on promoting respect and civility in the workplace. We're simply going to ask the employees to simply be kind. We will also focus on bystander intervention training. Bystander intervention training is one of the most powerful tools out there today. It empowers the coworkers and employees to actually have the tools to take a stand when they recognize that there's harassing behavior in the workplace. Our first phase of the training will begin with our elected officials, our directors, and our chiefs. We are looking at approximately 90 days to roll out this training, and then we will roll the rest of the training and phases into our employees. Thank you very much.
So, yeah, excuse me one second. So we believed it was imperative that we put a timeline on the implementation of the training. And so that's why we put the 90-day limit on it, that we would have the policy in place, ready to launch within 90 days. And working with both Richard and our acting director, Janet Manuel, we actually feel comfortable that it would happen even sooner than that. But from 90 days from the time the mayor signs the legislation, we want to absolutely be ready to launch the policy. And here's the mayor. So why don't we hold off just 1 second. Would you like a second? Good. So please come up. So I'm very proud to share this with our mayor, the Honorable William Peduto. He'll make some remarks about the importance of ensuring that our workplace here at the City of Pittsburgh is indeed harassment-free. So good morning, Mayor. Welcome.
Good morning. Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you, Councilman O'Connor, as well. Two important pieces of legislation being introduced today, both by Councilman Kraus and Councilman O'Connor, to address an issue that we should have addressed years ago. In light of the Me Too movement and the understanding that sexual harassment is something that happens in all workplaces, we need proactive initiatives in order to assure that our workers live and work in an environment that is harassment-free. And that includes not only the training of every elected or every official of city government, including elected officials, but also the understanding that non-disclosure agreements will not exist within the City of Pittsburgh, all the way to the interns that work within our offices. So I just am here today to thank Council for their leadership on this issue, for helping to make Pittsburgh one of the more progressive cities within this country, and to assure that the administration through our HR department will work hand in hand with City Council in order to make sure that these new rules are implemented. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you for being here. So with that, if I may, I would like to introduce Councilman O'Connor. As I said earlier, he's signed on as a co-sponsor of the legislation, but he has a piece of legislation that he's offering that the mayor did reference concerning non-disclosure agreements and how they will not exist here in Pittsburgh. So if I may, Councilman O'Connor.
Yeah, no, thank you, Council President Kraus, for doing this. Thank you for the mayor and his department for being very supportive of this process. All of his directors were outgoing in this. I do have to thank my staff behind me, Lynette Letterman, who was in a lot of the meetings, and Matt Singer, who actually wrote up the ban on non-disclosure agreements, with some great support from our law department, especially Wendy, who was there from day one talking to Matt. So just a couple things about the bill that we are also co-sponsoring and introducing today. The bill will make sure that the conduct we require of our employees is airtight, protective, and most importantly, modern and up-to-date. We are going to be updating our process more than just 5 years from now. It's going to be a yearly update from each department, which I think is very important. And I think the key thing what the mayor said was we are now going to ban the city's use of non-disclosure agreements except when we are protecting our victims. This is something that a lot of state legislatures are looking at doing, but it's really important that we do it on a local level. And by just making this statement, it shows that the city's stepping up. We are acting and doing what we have to in order to address harassment in the workplace, and reaffirming with confidence that we won't stand for this no matter what position you are. Whether you're a councilman, a mayor, a director, another elected official, we will not stand for this anymore in the City of Pittsburgh. So I want to thank all of you for coming, and I believe Councilman Kraus is going to take some questions now.
Yeah, thanks, Councilman. Thank you. Could I, Chrissy, though, can I kind of put you on the spot to bring you up and speak to the importance of this, of our enacting these initiatives here in Pittsburgh? Good, thank you.
My name is Christy Troutman. I'm Executive Director of the FISA Foundation. We do charitable grant making to benefit women, girls, and people with disabilities. And for the last several years, we've been partnering with the United Way and Heinz Endowments on a regional initiative called Southwest PA Says No More, which is a regional movement of individuals and organizations seeking to end gender-based violence. The Me Too movement has really been a watershed in this larger movement about addressing sexual harassment and sexual violence. We are seeing many women and some men come forward talking for the first time about their experiences. The new piece of the Me Too movement is the fact that there's consequences and changes happening in terms of policy. Many times when people think about preventing sexual harassment, sexual violence, domestic violence, it sounds theoretical, like good intentions. What the City of Pittsburgh is doing with these pieces of legislation and the changes in mandatory training is showing that prevention takes action, leadership, and policy change. And we believe that the actions of the City of Pittsburgh are really setting an example for employers across this region and across the country in taking action to establish cultures of respect. So I'm very honored to be here in support and very excited to see the unrolling of this city policy. Thank you.
So if I may briefly, I'd just like to go over the 4 points in the legislation. It is really rather clean and simple, but for purposes of this section, employee refers to all City of Pittsburgh employees, elected officials, employees of City Council, including all directors, supervisors, officials, and interns, both paid and unpaid. The Department of Human Resources shall prepare and implement a policy to provide on an annual basis anti-harassment training to all city employees, elected officials, and employees of City Council. The policy shall provide directors, supervisors, officials, and all employees with the knowledge and skills needed to address incidents of workplace harassment perpetuated by city officials and employees. And finally, the Department of Human Resources may work cooperatively with the boards of municipal authorities to extend this training as requested. And with that, we'll be happy to take questions, and I'm sure anyone here would be happy to take a question from anyone that you may have. Please.
Where is the curriculum for the training coming from, and who will conduct that training?
Acting Director, would you? Yep, Richard.
So at the moment, we're right in the midst of the research of that curriculum. There are several certifying bodies and facilitators out there, but we definitely will be looking at bystander prevention type of training. And again, the EEOC has a really robust civility training, and I've been looking at that and researching that. Because we have so many different departments, we have to be very specific. So out of a box training may not always be appropriate for who we are and what we do, because we want to make it specific to each department.
Will your department do the training, or will you bring in consultants from maybe those agencies to do it?
Well, most likely we'll do both. We don't have a very large training department, and we will be looking for collaborators and partnerships and consultants.
Bruce, what do you expect the annual, what's the cost for this?
Well, we're not certain that there is a cost per se. What we're hoping to do is explore opportunities to bring those in that can advise us on how best to implement these policies. We'd like to work at training trainers. Let's use me as an example. I'm a member of Pittsburgh City Council. I have staff that works directly with me. I am trained through HR to be the trainer within my department. And so there's sort of this tiered effect that we can train directors, supervisors, elected officials, and pass the training on down then. Now, we understand there's going to be some cost to this, but I would think largely it's going to be at a minimum. Yeah.
What's the current level of training right now?
Would you like to speak to that, Janet?
Sure. We currently educate our staff regarding anti-harassment, the non-acceptance of it during general orientation. And so with the implementation of these respective ordinances, that will just enhance what we are currently doing. We want to make sure that employees are aware of the sincerity of this being supported by the mayor as well as by city council and chiefs, directors, and management. So that is why we are looking to implement it beyond just the general orientation that is being conducted today.
So are you still planning to have the general orientation training?
Absolutely, and we are also improving what we are sharing during that process as well. So we will have the information shared during general orientation and then definitely continue with the annual training. Thank you.
The non-disclosure agreements, are they in use now generally in the city? In the city of?
The non-disclosure statement, well, right now I don't believe that it is currently. And so when we look at the usage of implementing the non-disclosure agreement, we want to make sure that we protect all parties that are involved. We want to make sure that people feel comfortable when they have something to report, that they do not feel a form of retaliation. And so the implementation of this is really to service and support everyone and make them feel that whatever concerns or issues that they have or want to address with their respective supervisor, human resources, that they have that capacity to do so without feeling any form of fear.
What are
Yes.
the current consequences for sexual harassment? Will those be restructured in any way?
We already addressed the, and have the consequences outlined. So any issues that are brought to our attention for investigation, the Office of Management of Municipal Investigations conduct that. And then we have those processes that we implement. We will be reviewing those. We want to make sure, just as it has already been stated, we will improve what we are doing. I don't want anyone to mistake that we don't have any policies or practices currently being done today. We are in adherence. This is just taking what we are doing to the next level. The City of Pittsburgh wants every employer in this region to follow the example that we are setting. We have raised the bar, and we want every employer in this region to join us with raising that bar and holding everyone accountable.
Director, you mentioned yesterday that there were 9 investigations by OMI from
Yes.
2012 to 2017 involving allegations of workplace harassment in the city. Does the city believe that there are many more instances of workplace harassment that are reflected in the formal complaints?
Hello, Adam. Yes, you and I did speak. And so your question is, and you are correct, in the past 5 years from 2012 to 2017, there were a total of 9 internal concerns addressed and investigated by the Office of Municipality Investigations of OMI. Is your question, do we anticipate that there are more? We hope that there are not any more. The thing that we are standing for today is, yes, we have had complaints in the past, and every employer, unfortunately, has. What the City of Pittsburgh is stating very emphatically is that we understand that there have been complaints, and we want to eliminate more before they come forward. We want employees to know that this is a work environment that they can come into without any fear, without any reprimations of actions. So no, we do not anticipate, we hope that there are no more. And we hope by implementing these respective ordinances that the employees of the City of Pittsburgh understand the message that is being given and that action will be taken against them if they do violate the policies. And so as we've stated continually about civility, and Title VII, as I stated earlier, that is not the blanket for the workforce. And so the violations of civility do not rise to the elevation of violation of Title VII. We recognize that. However, when an employee recognizes that they violate a policy adhered to by their employer, that there are penalties. And so we believe that employees understanding that will lessen their actions, knowing that there will be repercussions for their inappropriateness. You're welcome. Thank you.
So, if there are no other questions, I would just end by reinforcing the acting director's comments. Please don't be misled that there have not been policies and procedures in place. This really is about a national movement and a shift in mindset and a shift in culture. City of Pittsburgh recognizes that, and we want to, as the acting director said, raise the bar, say it loud and clear that the City of Pittsburgh, as an employer, is an harassment-free workplace. We invite you to join us, and we will do all in our power to elevate and protect you as a city employee. So thank you for being here, and we appreciate your time. Thank you all, too, very much.